Hello, ladies. How are you? Fantastic. Does your man look like me? No. Can he coincidentally draw in all the zombies to a location that can kill everyone but him? Yes. Should he fly around the world to search for a cure? I don't know. Do you like the scream of a zombie? Do you want a man who can inject himself with a deadly virus to create a zombie camouflage? Of course you do. Swan dive off a wall into a zombie-free world. So, ladies, should your man combat zombies as a sexy Hollywood man? You tell me.
That was perfect.
I did my best.
Your best was pretty good.
Welcome to Franchise Killer, a podcast where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong or right.
Or kind
and
of
our,
okay.
Our spice. I'll just say our zombie spice advertisement.
One of the lesser-known Spice Girls.
Hi, my name is Sweaty Spice.
What? Why sweaty?
Because I'm running from the
sold
zombies.
me. And that over there is, of course,
David.
I'm our host, Reese, and you are...
Irina.
And you are...
The helicopter pilot crashes into the zombies and dies.
Otherwise known as...
Noah.
A man of many faces.
And way over in a distant land, we have...
AJ.
All right.
In Alaska this time.
Travel a lot.
I thought you were in Rothra, Antarctica.
No, he was in Hawaii.
Hey, that is oddly specific. You are not allowed to give away my location. How else am I supposed to get away from this coronavirus?
No.
So today we are...
Everyone wants to infect you.
Today we're talking about World War Z, film that came out in 2013, directed by Marc Forster, who's been around the block a few times. He's directed Monsters Ball, Finding Neverland, Stranger Than Fiction, The Kite Runner, Quantum of Solace, the James Bond movie, and Christopher Robin most recently.
So
Forster,
some pretty
did he
good
really know
movies
her?
under his belt.
Yeah. The film stars Brad Pitt, Marielle Enos, James Badge Dale, Matthew Fox.
Did you say anus?
Yeah. I don't think she'd appreciate that.
Didn't expect that joke from me,
I
did
just
you?
completely missed that.
Muriel Enos.
There you go.
Anos.
Also Peter Capaldi and Ruth Nega. The movie was written by Matthew Michael Carnahan and
Luke John.
and Drew Goddard, who you'll know from directing Cabin in the Woods,
Hey.
and Damon Lindelof. The movie is loosely based off of the book of the same name, World War Z, by Max Brooks.
Emphasis on the loosely.
Emphasis on the book.
He's actually the son of Mel Brooks.
I was going to say, is there a connection to Mel Brooks? And I was like, nah, I won't make that dumb joke. And then it turned out to be real.
Actually
Yep.
pretty accurate.
So on this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode. Then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Then towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews and numbered scores, along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it or not. Mm-hmm. So, had y'all seen this movie before, David?
Actually, yes, I have.
Okay.
I saw it on opening weekend, actually.
Because you worked at the theater?
No. Well, I was working at the theater at this time, actually. But that's not where I saw it. Okay. I took a vacation with my friends down to Padre, and I actually saw it there. And I had a very positive reaction.
You know, I'm surprised you could watch any other movie aside from Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
Who
It left
said-
such a lasting
who
impact
says
on you.
that? Did you like this movie? Yes, I had a very positive reaction.
My reaction is pointing this way.
It sounds like Jim Carrey. Oh, why, yes. It does.
All right, so Irina.
All right, I actually don't remember who I watched this with, but it was probably you, Reese.
If you
probably
didn't
showed
remember
to
it,
me.
it was probably Noah.
No.
No, it looks up like, what?
No, because I specifically know you to introduce me to a lot of films you really enjoyed and just say, have you seen this yet? And then I say no, and then you're like, oh, you should watch it. Let's watch it now.
That sounds exactly
And then,
like every situation.
and then you
with
would
him.
leave the room. But
Watch it.
so I know for sure I didn't watch this in theaters. I think I saw commercials for it, trailers, and I don't know. I had read the book beforehand, maybe when I was beginning my first year of college, and I don't know. My impression from the trailers was that it was just trying to be a box office action film, and I didn't the books didn't represent that to me, so I was not very interested at the time. I didn't care much for Brad Pitt because I was like, oh, it's just your typical Hollywood celebrity kind of showcasing his badassery in a zombie film. I don't know. It just didn't intrigue me, but when you showed it to me, I found that I enjoyed it more than I expected.
Yeah. Noah.
I didn't really have a positive reaction or a negative reaction to this one because I didn't see it.
I knew it. I was going to say, did you watch this movie, Noah?
I didn't see it.
All right. So
I pretty much did when I saw the trailer, though.
No.
No.
yeah, before this movie, Noah's like, I don't feel like I need to watch it. I've watched enough trailers. I feel like I know what it's about.
Well, was I wrong?
All right.
I said no.
AJ, how about you?
So kind of on the same notes as Irina here, the initial kind of first impression I got from it was just another Brad Pitt movie, so I kind of wrote it off, didn't really care about seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Other people talked about it, they seemed to like it. I don't know that they were the highest people I trusted, I guess, so I didn't really pursue that until it came out on Netflix or something like that, and I watched it, and I was like, hey, that actually kind of did impress me or beat my expectations.
Yeah.
So, and then recently rewatched it, and especially with the current events going on with coronavirus here, decided to listen to the audiobook here, and so yeah, there's a lot of good stuff actually coming out.
There's actually a couple of parallels to what we're dealing with right now in this film.
I'm actually interested, being a fresh listener to World War Z, what you have to say.
Yeah. All right. Are y'all ready to get into the plot of this movie?
Let's swan dive.
All right. This rundown is taken from Wikipedia. I'll say up at the front. Former UN employee Jerry Lane, Brad Pitt does not look like a Jerry.
I know.
What do you think that is?
Like,
Jerry.
Also, a lot of these characters have like the alternate spelling of their name.
Yeah. Oh,
We actually talked about that.
When I first saw how his name was written, I was thinking immediately Parks and Recreation.
Yeah.
Jerry Gergich.
Yeah, because his name changes from Jerry to Gary to Terry.
Yeah.
All right.
So I was thinking that throughout the movie.
Former UN employee Jerry Lane, his wife Karen, and their 2 daughters are in heavy Philadelphia traffic when the city is overrun by zombies that are attracted to sound. As chaos spreads, the Lanes escape to Newark, New Jersey, and take refuge in an apartment, home to a couple with a son, Tommy. UN Deputy Security General Thierry Umotoni, an old friend of Jerry, sends a helicopter that extracts the Lanes and Tommy to a U.S. Navy vessel in the Atlantic, where scientists and military personnel are analyzing the worldwide outbreaks. Andrew Fastback posits that the plague is a virus and that development of a vaccine depends on finding the origin. Jerry agrees to help Fastback find the outbreak's source after it is made clear that the Lanes will be removed from the cramped ship if he is not of use. Okay, so right off the bat, I thought this movie, the outbreak escalates comedically quickly.
Yeah, so with this, I thought it was funny. I was wondering, why are there all these car wrecks right now?
Yeah,
I didn't really understand that with a zombie outbreak.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why is everyone crashing into
think
each
it's
other?
because the traffic is already bad where they are, but then when you have a zombie, attack where it was way in front of them, way down the line in the city, all of a sudden, the military gets involved very quickly. I feel like things escalate that quickly when you have a zombie that spreads this quickly.
Yeah, but first of all, there wasn't any military there.
There was.
Well, not until after.
There were police.
But there's police.
Well, they have that military gun thing.
The first thing you see is like, oh, it's a traffic jam, right? And then there's some huge explosion ahead. Like, what was that?
Zombies got into the things.
Oh, those zombies, you know them in their C4.
They figured it out.
I want to imagine them as a little team. Like,
okay, they did
light the fuse, boys.
No. They were in a car, and they showed one that was driving in a car that was infected. It could have been a car driving into something that it shouldn't have driven into.
Okay, first of all, that also is a myth. Cars do not explode. Like, they actually don't explode. They fire.
The car
it had to drive
the
into
car
something.
did not explode.
What?
It was something farther down a few blocks that was blowing up. I don't even know.
What did the...
In
I don't know.
Sorry,
the
go ahead,
prelude,
Andrew.
a little
What were you
bit, they're
saying?
eating breakfast. He's got the news on in the background. The news talks about there's martial law established in somewhere else in the world. talks about it being kind of rabies starting in Taiwan and already spread to 12 more countries.
Mm-hmm.
And then talks about allegations of how there hasn't been enough done to prevent the spread, and how it's transmitted between species from a bite from an infected animal. So right off the bat, it's kind of eerie how we've got this similarity to our current events right now.
Oh, yeah.
From
People
animal.
here in the U.S. are kind of insulated from the other problems. It's like we're just in our own little bubble.
Right.
So
We
even
just
though it's
keep
like
on.
already kind of disaster level outside of the world, people are going about their daily business here until
yeah.
it just ramps up. So it's not kind of interesting to see it from that perspective at the beginning where you're talking about what's going on, why is everybody just doing this? And then you see today's world where people are just kind of doing their daily business and then until it suddenly smacks you in the face.
Everything's fine until everything's really not fine.
Oh,
yeah.
but before we go too far into the action, I did want to shout out Marco Beltrami's score straight from the beginning.
Yes.
That opening montage where we get the title sequence of the World War Z coming into place, and we get all the shots of the wildlife kind of
Just nature
Yeah.
devouring and consuming.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
Well-
very symbolic of the type of plague, and also the music was very evocative
Well, it
so
seems
good.
like
of all of that. Yeah.
it would flash between examples of predators, consuming prey.
Yeah.
But then also throwing into the mix the ants and some kind of
bugs.
mass mentality, because it would throw in schools of fish where like their defense is to maintain a formation
Yeah.
and be together
Yeah.
when they're trying to defend themselves from the enemy.
Yeah,
Kind
So
of
So-
like
I definitely
shopping
get
for
an
toilet paper today.
Yeah. So it's like a
I definitely get
it's very
the
cool.
anthill vibe from
Yeah,
these
definitely.
zombies.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
What are they? The bullet ants or what are the
Yeah.
ones that create those ladders?
Fire
I
ants can
don't
do that.
Fire
Yeah,
ants.
fire-
yeah.
Fire
a
ants
lot
rats
of,
in
a lot
water
of
and
ants
islands and
actually can do that. The thing about the insect world is like with ants and bees alike, they kind of have this mass mentality where they don't really think of themselves as
hive mind.
individuals. They have a hive mind. So that kind of makes sense when you see the zombies where each one of them is in a sense acting like they're expendable because they're only working for the mass.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. I honestly I noticed something that was kind of interesting early on. The zombies, they wouldn't like go up to people and beat on them and like make them submit or eat them.
Gouge their eyes out.
They bit them once and then moved on.
Yeah.
And I think that was because the goal of the film was to make it look like they're trying to spread.
So
Yeah.
they weren't like this.
Yeah.
This person isn't a steak dinner. This is my new potential friend.
This is a virus.
Yeah, kind of.
We're
They're just
creating
lonely.
an army.
They really like their
Even
social
with thousands
networks.
of us, we're still
Yeah.
lonely.
One
Zombie
of
book.
us.
Yeah,
One
zombie
of
book,
us.
basically. Yeah.
Anyway, back to the action. I did think it was funny that they're in this standstill traffic, and this cop tells Brad Pitt or
Get in your car.
Yeah, Jerry, as if get in your car, and then like out of nowhere, this truck spawns and just
Out of
hits-
nowhere.
It literally does come out of
I
nowhere.
will allow it, okay? Because of the shock
Well,
value.
actually, okay, that shock, I get it, but now that you say it, it is dumb because it was just as tight traffic behind that
There was
huge car
literally
would not
nothing.
fit.
Yeah, they
between
didn't
them.
hear any of
There was
that.
and they
nothing.
didn't. Yeah, there was no sound or
Also-
anything. Just suddenly he was a and like,
Yeah,
well,
also
he's
unrealistic. A cop just clipped his side view mirror off, and then he just
Yeah.
gets out and looks at it. Oh, okay. Like no one's
whatever.
cussing at each other in traffic. No one's
Oh,
like
what's
honking
going
their
on?
horns.
Well,
I don't know what's
happening?
going on. Okay.
It's another American
I
day
don't
life.
understand.
This sucks.
And what's with Volvos in zombie movies?
I have no idea. They
They're
just
the
want
Quality
Man
Swedish
car.
engineering.
Yeah.
They got some monopoly on zombies. Who knows? But yeah, also we learn that these zombies spread incredibly quickly. We get the Jerry and his wife Karen and their kids get out of the car, and they're running, and Jerry observes a person get bit. 12 seconds later, he is turned. And we also learn that Jerry is a very observent person
Yeah.
throughout
I
this
think-
entire movie.
But the thing is, even though he's like, that's just one of those things where you're like, okay, he's just gonna be the one person that notices.
Well, he's been
things out of
trained
everyone.
also. Let's put
Yeah.
it that
You
way.
just
Yeah,
answered
yeah.
one of my questions, Reese. Thank you.
What was
About
your
the 12
question?
seconds and how the doll was counting.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
they threw that in so that that's how he knows to count to 12 later in the movie.
I think but I actually really, really enjoyed that sequence. I
Me
kind of
too.
like, there's often this trope where they incorporate a children's limerick or something with horror films because that just kind of increases to the suspense and
Ring
fear.
around the rosy.
Yeah, exactly. So I did like that little moment, even though it's weird that he would stop. I don't know. I guess you would want to observe what exactly is happening, but I actually liked that little
And the way they slowed it
touch.
down, like and they
Oh
did
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Trains in the station. Yeah.
It was pretty
Yeah.
creepy, but cool at the same
But
time.
it was effective.
Also, and we are going to touch on this multiple times. I feel like if I had to,
Yes.
look into the future, I'm wondering how this virus, like how no one had any warning for it coming.
They
like
sort of did talk about that when they were talking about the what was it, the rabies. Did you hear them
Yeah.
talking about that in the
That's
intro?
what I was kind of talking
Yes.
about a little
Yeah.
minute ago.
This is
But,
this is a virus though that I don't understand how it could spread to overseas just because of how quickly it acts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you're on a plane, don't you notice if someone's infected and then
Well, we may talk about that a little bit later, Reese.
either they infect everyone and the plane goes down, or they isolate that person somehow and then they get out when you get to the next country. I just don't understand.
Maybe
like,
they brought him over, like they brought a thing over to test it, and then it got loose.
That's
and,
the
Well-
only reason I could think of. Yeah.
Yeah, and as they're kind of doing that long shot out of Philadelphia, you hear over the radio chatter saying containment is a fail. So obviously official sources knew there was something going on. They just didn't, let the public in.
You just think someone would have contacted Jerry sooner since he's such an instrumental figure in the
So-
story.
This is actually an interesting point because he's technically kind of in, I don't know, retirement, or he quit.
Yeah.
But it's actually very topical right now because where we need hands the most are in our hospitals, and a lot of people that have, during this COVID-19 crisis, they have brought people out of retirement to come back and work because they just have no other option. Like, they ask them to
We
come
need
and
people.
work. We
Yeah.
just need more hands. So I could understand why when this becomes such a huge issue, they're like, we need to call in everyone
yeah,
we can.
all hands on deck.
The only problem with this film is that it makes it feel like he's the savior, like he's the only one
Yeah,
that
and he's
fits
got-
that position.
I honestly think he's a curse because everywhere he goes, like just hits the fan.
Yeah, he's got
Like-
major plot armor. Like he gets in this giant car wreck. They don't come away with a scratch, and then just like throughout the
Yeah.
rest of the movie, he's just like untouchable.
Well, like I was telling Reese when we were watching it again, it's interesting because he is cursed and he's also extremely lucky at the same time.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
death surrounds him.
Yeah. So we get to they escape Philadelphia and now they're at some convenience store in Newark, New Jersey, where the
So
lights
just
are
another day
ever
in New
flickering.
Yeah.
Yeah, yet again with the flickering
flickering
lights
light.
after literally one day. Your
Yeah.
electricity doesn't die that quick.
Yeah, I feel like they could have used some more padding out. Things just get a little too crazy, a little too quickly in
Yeah.
this movie. It's just like blink of an eye. Now people are trying to rape Karen in the aisle 12 of the
yeah.
convenience
Right.
store.
So
It's just-
that actually brings up a point that I had thought in this scenario when they're trying to. It's implied that they're trying to rape her, but the idea is when you come down to basic animal instinct, the first priority is self-preservation. So the fact that these guys' first idea is, hey, everything's in shambles. Let's rape this lady.
When it comes to anarchy like this, there are people who care about themselves. There are other people who the first thought they have is, how can I take advantage of this situation?
Yeah, opportunism.
Exactly.
Predatory
I
opportunism.
definitely think there would be people who would do that.
I don't know.
As stupid
I
as it
just-
is, I think they would.
I don't.
You
Not
say
in
that.
Yeah, not in that scene, though. I think I could understand maybe outside of the grocery store where they can just kind of, like, I think still in people's minds there's instilled this socialism where they kind of understand the way society works, so they're a little stuck in, maybe I need to
boundaries.
hide this a little bit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't understand just immediately hopping onto a woman in the middle of a grocery store.
That was Dothraki.
Especially not like dragging her to the side or something. And
Right,
I mean, I think they were like
exactly.
mugging her, trying to steal her purse, and then also that's
Maybe.
implied after as
Yeah.
well.
They're like,
But it's
"Screw it, we're
interesting.
here."
Like David brings up the opportunism that kind of runs rampant, and on a bigger picture, the original book talks about how there's a medical company that created a pseudo vaccine that was a
Placebo?
placebo. Thank you.
Oh,
I knew it
yeah,
started with
you're
a P.
welcome. I thought you were thinking of a specific drug.
No. So they create a placebo vaccine called Phalanx that treats malaria. Even though they knew that it wasn't truly malaria, the official notice said it was malaria, just because they want to make a buck off of that and just kind of give a false sense of safety for everybody.
Security,
They're profiteering off of that. And even in today's world, with this virus, you have drug companies trying to claim orphan drug status over, remdesivir or however you say it, and stuff like that. So it's the opportunism just immediately pops out in people like hoarding toilet paper and all that stuff. And
Right.
Oh, yeah.
We've definitely seen it on kind of a slower scale here.
Yeah.
But it just seemed a little extreme. But maybe
Yeah.
I'm right. Maybe the pandemic is also more extreme in this movie, so maybe it's adjusting accordingly. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I'm,
also
I'm,
in New
at, I'm at
Jersey.
a mix between the two of y'all. I think it.
Sorry,
that
New
kind of
Jersey
stuff,
listeners.
I think that kind of stuff absolutely would happen, but I do agree that they would try and conceal it a little better than like, hey, grocery store, perfect mating ground.
Yes.
Well,
I know.
like AJ said, they could be in the store and they were getting things, and then they're like, I'm gonna mug this woman, get her purse, get her money, whatever, and then they're like, well, actually, since I'm here,
While I'm at it. No.
So
That's
that
like how
still
Jerry
doesn't make
has
sense
this
to me.
rifle, and he just walks up to them as they're, seemingly about to rape his wife, and has his like rifle in the air in a submissive position, like a Tuscan Raider. Like, if someone's about to rape your wife, you take shot before they even notice you. You don't,
Dude,
like,
yeah, honestly.
I don't know.
Especially
That
in
was
that
annoying.
kind of situation.
guys, can you
I-
get off my wife, please?
I did like that brief interaction with the junkie at the pharmacy.
yeah.
I like that.
where-
a lot,
I
too.
think he was actually the pharmacist, probably kind
Yeah.
of
He
protecting
was.
it, but
yeah,
just
he wasn't a
hiding it.
junkie, Reese.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But,
he
I
knew
thought
what.
I thought it was implied that he killed a pharmacist.
No,
that
no,
was
Reese,
working
this is
there.
in New Jersey.
Reese, no, we know it's the pharmacist because he goes, "What are you looking for?" He tells him the
Hey,
specific drug, and he goes,
I'm-
"Oh,
I'm-
right
And he
here."
knows exactly where
I'm
to
gonna
find
say
it.
for a second, New Jersey, if you are a listener, we love you.
It's all in
and we
good
do
fun.
not think y'all are savages. We
As
love
long
you.
as you're not a rapist.
You're not all snooky.
Y'all are great. Y'all are not
Not
the,
Snooki's one of our listeners.
You're not the situation.
Yeah, but did you hear me, Reese? When it came to the pharmacist, he says the specific drug name, knows exactly where it is, hands it to him, and said, "Also, take this." Reaches
It works
into another
for my
drawer.
kid.
I
Works
thought
for
that
my
was
kid.
just him like knowing drugs.
So the thing is, like,
I don't know.
well, he knew the exact drawer for it, so I'm
Okay.
not. Yeah, it's debatable.
He
though.
does
I
look
think-
like a druggie, though.
Honestly, this is one of those things where you don't really care. He's one of those characters where you can speculate, oh, does he work there? Or is
Yeah.
he just someone that's a good-natured person and just happens to
Well,
kind of
Know
have
the exact
drug
drawer.
if
By
it-
the way,
I
if
have a
anyone
thought.
wasn't listening, they were getting the drugs because one of their daughter had
Asthma.
kind of
Yeah.
she had an asthma attack. So
Yeah.
I bet
Yeah.
he might have. He perhaps could have worked there previously, but was there to get a bunch of supplies, and he happened to
Very
know
well
what all
could
that
be.
was, and
But
was like,
the-
"I need some medicine,"
This
Yeah.
is-
and then someone else was.
This
coming
is one
there.
of those things where it's, there are a lot of movies where you try to discuss plot holes and try to explain away things, but that's one of those situations where it doesn't matter because in real life something like that could happen
very
and
well
you don't
could,
know.
Even
what
still,
the reasoning is.
they really do a good job kind of painting a full detailed picture because in the very intro when they're at home eating breakfast, they're talking about did she get her asthma medicine to take to wherever, does she have a
Yeah.
backup, and then in the car wreck scene they're like, I forgot my purse with her asthma medicine, so they like
Yeah.
established that. It's not like later on, oh, what's this asthma deal like.
Right.
So they're kind of
Yeah.
really paying attention to the details, and I found that cool.
Yeah.
I like
the
that a
other
lot.
the other interesting thing they threw into that whole grocery scene was the cop kind of abandoning
Oh yeah,
his
Yeah, and that-
principles and just like he's defending them, but he's like, well, this is in such a state of crisis that I need to
Yeah.
look out for myself too.
And that harkens back to real life where that happened in Hurricane Katrina, Harvey, like all these natural disasters. You actually see news stories of cops instead
Right.
of, protecting and serving the public, they're just fending for themselves,
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
human.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they make their way to the apartment, and we get two cool stairwell sequences, fighting their way through some zombies up to a apartment where some people live, and they take kind of refuge there for a second, and then they fight their way back up to the top, where they rendezvous with the helicopter to get over to. He's a former UN
vague general UN member.
I thought the interaction with the language barrier, the Hispanic family there, that was really neat.
Yeah, that was
trying
really
to
good.
break people down to a bare human level, also trying to survive.
Yeah, and the son is the only one able to kind of relay.
Talk to him.
Which is
Yes, and how
actually a
these
really
people are-
common thing in the U.S.
Yeah.
Well, how
Like,
they're
often
feeding
the
them,
parents will
in
know.
crisis, they're letting them in, even though they're weirdly standing there with their door open. When
That was the
Yeah.
first thing they said when they get in there is, "Want any food?"
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, wow, that's actually really warming. Like,
How about a
heartwarming.
beer?
Yeah, cerveza.
Oh, yeah.
Cerveza?
Again, I had to make a comment, but
Budweiser?
it was reminding me of 28 Days Later again. Just a lot of
Oh,
some of the
yeah.
sequences remind me of the sort of locations that they would end up in, where it's like someone's apartment, they're being hospitable, and
Yeah.
there's sort of this moment of at least
Levity.
quiet and peace for a minute there.
This is also our first indication that I think you stated it earlier, Irina, but that Brad Pitt's the only one who's ever watched a zombie movie.
No, it wasn't me. It was
Yep.
someone
That
else.
was-
who
that
was
was
it.
Noah.
Wait,
Yeah,
taking
that was
a
Noah.
butcher
Yeah.
knife to a broomstick to make
Yeah,
a
he
spear, and then
makes
also
it-
putting the magazine on his
The magazines,
forearm.
yeah.
He's very resourceful, and it's satisfying to watch him prepare appropriately for the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
And not
he's
only
listening
that,
to the
we're... Oh, go
Emergency radio broadcast saying, get supplies for 1 to 2 weeks. Virus is already spread across the state.
Yep, and everyone else here is just like running around with their heads cut off.
Yeah,
In addition to
yeah.
that, he got
Chicken.
he got blood in his mouth from one of the zombies, and he instantly goes up to the ledge. And
Oh, that
Yeah.
was actually really cool.
yeah,
I
that
liked that
I actually
scene.
really loved that
I-
scene. It was one of my favorites.
It was
where he goes
cool,
to
but
the ledge.
also if you turn, you're not going to have control of your faculties to make the decision to jump. So it's like,
Well, I think
So,
at what
well,
point
that's
do you have
the-
to
Enough
control
time,
to throw
I
I think
yourself
that's
over?
the thing though. I think you don't have control of your faculties, so you might just fall off anyway because he was really close to the precipice. So in his convulsions, he might just trip and fall.
yeah.
I think it was a safe compromise to
Yeah.
be like, I feel like that's maybe what I would do.
Yeah.
I would
It
hope
was-
at least.
It was
Yeah.
definitely a unique scene that you don't really see a whole lot because you see some people taking the the self-sacrifice when they're
Yeah.
turning, but that was really cool. It just adds to his resourcefulness and his
Right,
his
right.
quick thinking.
We
Yes.
also learn a little bit more about how these zombies tick, which is they don't really tick. They just kind of throw themselves where they
They
want to
swarm.
go.
Well, also, like the really interesting thing about these zombies, I love studying zombies because every single one is different. But
Yeah.
this one was they very much lead with their heads and their mouths.
Yeah.
Because for them, that's the most important feature.
I feel like
I
they're
thought
just
we
Like, everything else is
people.
expendable.
I feel like they're just magnetized towards a source where it's
Yeah.
just like we're gonna get there no matter what. I don't care
Yeah.
what our body is
Right.
capable of. We're just going to throw ourselves at it.
Right.
Well, it's,
You know,
it's that
beyond
it's that
animal.
hive mind.
Hive mind
Yeah.
mentality,
Yeah, yeah.
swarming.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Which honestly, at the beginning of this movie and everything it's teasing is that there is like, oh, there's got to be like some queen or something.
Yeah.
No. I mean, obviously that doesn't happen,
But
but
that would be cool.
yeah, you'd think that, oh, you take out the queen, they all fall.
That,
They're all
that
drones.
actually
They
that
just
actually
kinda, like-
feels very Resident Evil when I think about it.
Yeah. Brad Pitt makes it to the aircraft carrier. Was it an aircraft carrier or
Yeah.
battleship?
Yeah, yeah.
It
Something
was an
like
aircraft carrier.
It's a carrier.
Yeah, so he learns kind of just offhand, oh, the president died and we can't find the vice president.
What do you mean we lost
And
Boston?
then 6 Joint Chiefs are gone. Yeah, it's like dire straits here.
Yeah, and he just kind of like shrugs like, huh, that's
Okay,
that's not good.
not good.
Well, and to answer your question, Reese, I think they did specifically say that the biggest cities are worst off as far as spread goes, intercontinental spread. He says the airlines were the biggest vector for transmission.
Right, right.
But
So,
still-
And they
yeah.
mentioned cruise ships, which is a topical point as well
Yeah.
here.
I just have issues with the spread.
Yeah.
Just
So the problem is that they would hear these things like little preludes to what's going to happen, like, oh, there's some sort of rabies thing, in advance. But if it was spreading this fast, it would have been a huge issue already.
yeah.
I don't like it. Other countries would have been taking measures by this point.
This
Yeah.
is
Unless
why
they all died and they don't know.
this is why I think it had more to do with them taking and like quarantining it and using it for testing, and then they get loose or whatever. And That's the only way I can see it working.
Yeah.
See, this would make more sense to me if it had started here, if where he was ground zero, or somewhere within the United States.
But it wasn't.
It was still a little
Yeah.
fast, yeah.
Well, say they wanted to test it in one of the. Actually, they did cover this later. I think in one of the places they were researching it. I think for a cure, and one of the guys got infected through researching it. So that is one way that it could have spread to another country if you wanted to.
like sending over samples or something.
Yeah,
No, but
exactly.
my point is, since it's so fast acting, this would have been an obvious problem if it being started in another country. So by the point that had started there, other people would have known already what was going on and then made fast action to try and stop it.
Yeah.
So
It's just hard to explain
It's
how
hard-
this spreads
yeah,
globally.
it's really difficult, but
All right.
Yeah, and I think that's where it kind of distanced itself from the original book.
right.
Yeah. All
Maybe
right.
they swim.
Jerry.
Well, they do in the book.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, in
Oh,
the book they do.
well-
They
There's actually a
are
whole
dormant under
really
the
cool
seas, and they
account.
literally walk out of the surf, and it's like
Yes.
super creepy.
Oh, that's actually
It's
really
really
cool.
creepy.
I would
actually
love to
I
see
remember
that, in a
that
movie.
part in the book. It was I was like, oh
Gosh, why didn't they touch on that? What
they
the
were
heck?
like nipping at the feet of people swimming and stuff.
Jerry and Fosbach fly to Camp Humphreys, a military base in South Korea, where they are attacked on arrival by zombies. Turning to recenter the aircraft, Fosbach slips, falls, and accidentally shoots himself dead.
I love that.
After being rescued by the base's surviving personnel, led by Captain Spake, I'm gonna assume it's Speak. It's Speke, so we'll just go Captain Spake. Jerry learns that the infection was introduced to the base by its doctor, who was ultimately incinerated by a soldier with a lame leg, whom the infected ignored. A former CIA operative imprisoned at the base for selling weapons to North Korea tells Jerry to go to Jerusalem, where he says a safe zone has been maintained by the Israeli Mossad since before the outbreak's official acknowledgement. As Jerry and his team return to their aircraft, Karen, worried about her husband after he misses their prearranged call time, rings his satellite phone, attracting zombies who kill several soldiers with only Jerry and his pilot escaping.
Rough.
All right, so let's first talk about Fosbach killing himself.
That was
Dude.
a great and terrible moment.
What
Actually,
a shocking
before-
but bold turn of events.
Jerry
I'll just
even
say.
tells him, like, right before, like, watch your trigger discipline. Don't keep your finger on the trigger until you're about to shoot, and then turn
Yeah.
around. And
Maybe that was his
Yep.
goal all along, guys. He didn't want to be there. He's like, fast way out.
I just love
why
how they
send
slight
your top
foreshadowing.
virologist out onto the field, boots in the ground, in the first place to get rest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
it
There's a
doesn't
lot
make
of
sense.
weird logic.
Although we did kind of bypass the kind of big discussion that he and the virologist had on the flight over, which is nature leaves little clues.
So you
And it's a
know,
fun
But he said
game
Mother
to
Nature is a
solve.
serial killer that wants to get caught.
you just know that this guy came straight out of college and he has been practicing this line forever. He probably heard it from a professor.
I
He was at
just
Harvard for
waiting
10
for
I
years.
someone.
okay?
love the
Yeah.
subversion though, because you're thinking like in a normal movie, this guy would make it to the end,
Yeah.
and he's like, oh,
Yeah.
he's the MacGuffin that they're trying to just get to the end.
Right,
right.
And right off the bat, they just snuff him out.
Dude,
like,
imagine
like,
dying the
he's
way
gone.
he did.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess of all the ways he could have died in a zombie apocalypse,
it's
that would
Pretty fast.
I think it's an interesting contrast to have him with the Brad Pitt character, the Jerry character, because Jerry's like, well, I've seen some stuff, you know, kind of a guy,
Yeah.
and he's resourceful,
I've never seen
and
anything.
but then this guy is just fresh meat who's like, I don't know, but I'm excited to
Let's do
like be a
this.
part
Super
of this
cocky.
big thing, you know,
that doesn't
and
last long.
that usually represents that age group where they think they have all the answers to everything,
Yeah.
and they're impervious. They don't kind of realize their own mortality, but he just, because of his own innocence, kills himself.
Also, the premise. So, why are we sending them out to South Korea? They say so. They first say it's like the Spanish flu. Also, kind of, you hear that thrown around a lot today with the coronavirus. But they're like, you know, saying if you find it's sensitive virus, if you find the source, you can make a vaccine. I don't know that from an epidemiology, like, if that really
Well,
makes sense scientifically.
I'm
Like, why do you need to know the source to
assume-
find a vaccine?
I don't know. I'm assuming he was trying to get to Ground Zero originally.
Yeah.
He was in South Korea at Camp Humphreys. They were probably on their way to Taiwan or somewhere around that location.
Backtracking.
I'm just making this up as I go
Yeah.
along. But then, crap happens, and we got to change our plan. So
I will say, for this movie's flaws, it is very entertaining.
Oh yeah.
And I
Yeah,
really
visually.
like I really like all the characters that they have in the movie. They're all, varying levels of, oh, I like that guy,
yeah.
or I like that girl. Oh man,
Yeah,
the mom is
visually-
like really, she can keep her cool in this situation.
Right.
Yeah. I do really like all the Camp Humphreys stuff. We get the what's his name? The tooth pulling from the general,
yeah.
or not
Right.
the general. What? Why can't I
He's one of the
remember anyone in this
CIA
movie?
operatives who sold guns to the
Dude,
North Koreans.
anytime it comes to military personnel, I just forget all of their
Yeah,
stations.
it's
I'm
just
like,
so out of my
whatever,
element
something
to
I don't
remember.
They
know.
do
Establish a
Colonel.
good like camaraderie and squad culture,
Right.
especially compared to like 28 weeks later.
Oh,
where they're
yeah,
like, this
it's-
is FUBAR. Like,
It's
Yeah,
far
what was
it's
he-
far more
What
believable.
was he like? One of the greatest feats of human engineering. Pull out all
Pull
the
out
teeth
your
of
teeth.
In
thousands of
24
people in
hours,
24
yeah.
hours. That
Forget
didn't
about
seem
other ways of
He said social
contamination.
engineering, I think.
social engineering.
I
but-
will say though, when we're talking more about the other guys who are in the army or whatever sector they're in, they like AJ was saying, they are definitely more believable than the other movies, and their terminology and just like their pack mentality.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the main guy you're following, what was his name?
The actor was James Badge Dale. I don't remember
Yeah,
what
he.
his,
I thought at
role
first,
was.
looking at him, I'm like, oh, this is kind of like that douchebag military
Yeah,
guy.
me too.
It's not going to be a good. And you learn that he's actually a very good person and
So
a good character.
I wrote
The
in my
interesting thing about his character is something that I've noticed about a lot of people that have either gone into the military or had to do boot camp type things, is that they develop this kind of armor for themselves emotionally, where it's kind of like this weird macabre sense of humor. Where
another
they're
Zeke.
kind of like playing things off.
He's like, goddamn, I'm
Yeah.
a Zeke or
Yep,
something.
yep.
Yeah.
I got
So
eyes on
they-
you, Captain.
They
Yeah.
like, because of all the intense things they have to go through and see, they have to have this weird sense of humor about it.
And preparedness, almost like that. One of my favorite parts of this whole thing was when they're kind of going out there to be secretive and get the fuel in the plane, and as they're going, they're, all right, we gotta be really quiet, and then his phone starts buzzing because his wife calls him, and then on the you're like the radio, you hear one go like, can you please turn off all pagers and cell phones, please?
I love that. I love
It
that.
kinda
his name
sucks
is
that-
Captain Speak, and they're Army Rangers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. There you go.
And
But,
I had
um,
said that in our in my
Yeah.
reading of the synopsis.
But even when they get to the little sanctuary base camp, they immediately, as soon as the newcomers walk in, they're checking their eyes, making sure they're not turned already.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say it kind of sucks that Muriel Enos, not Anus, is relegated to the worrying wife role
Yeah.
from Home.
I didn't,
Right.
Where she
I didn't
just
really
kind
care
of
for
like,
that. Their dynamic
Yeah,
husband and wife was
yeah,
just kind of
yeah.
too cheesy, simplistic.
Yeah,
fairy
well,
tale.
she was-
Dynamic in the beginning.
She was good in the beginning where she was like actually helping him out and saying,
Yeah.
pointing out the apartments and like where they should go.
Right.
But
Right.
then-
kicking the zombie out the window.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
then she's just kind of relegated to the like, okay, well, I will just
Stay at
call
home
Brad
life.
Pitt
Well,
at the
Yeah.
wrong times,
When
When
and
she
that
should
will
know
be my
better than
role.
to call him, she should wait for a
Yeah.
call from him instead of calling him when
Yeah.
he
I
could be in
think
that
it-
kind of situation.
Also, he
would've-
should have turned his
yeah.
phone down. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
go ahead.
That's true.
No, I think also if I were in his situation, I would say, I call you, you don't call me, because you never know. He's basically in the hot spot. He may not have known
Yeah.
at the time, but even in your position as someone high up in those ranks, you would know that maybe this shouldn't be oh yeah, call me whenever you want kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I would assume that he's been in past positions that have had that same kind of rule, so I
Yeah,
figured that would have
exactly.
carried over. But
Yeah.
what did y'all think of how the zombies kind of materialized out of the rain? I feel like it really
Oh,
harkened
so
back to Jurassic
cool.
Park for me with the raptors. and
yeah.
they have
I
like really
actually had a
raptors.
Jurassic Park note. I actually
Yeah.
did.
I
They
did really
jump
like.
out, they launch themselves out, and they like one of them literally jumps off as soon as the body does, before it even hits the ground. He's on to the next person.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
actually
that
thought
was
that was
kinda
a good exercise in horror.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that sequence, and then when in the bicycles and the truck, I thought it was just an interesting action sequence.
Yeah,
And,
even like later in the movie, the zombies just kind of meandering around, just clacking their teeth, or like
Yeah.
looking
Right.
around the corner through the windows, like seeing if they can open the door or not. Just
Yeah.
it really felt Raptor-ish from Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah.
And then the plane takes off, and a few of them fall out the back.
Yep.
There's something
pity.
weirdly comical about them.
Woo! I mean, that happens in every sequence. There's always a few that are just like, all right.
It's very ant-ish, right? Like where they're clinging on. You're like, get off.
Yeah. Oh. Also, we get, as they're flying towards the next location in Israel, we get a cool shot of just nuke down below, which I thought was just so like intriguing. I wanted to know what was happening
Yeah,
down
did
below
they ever explain
there.
that?
No, they don't. But I
I kind of like that though.
It's just a cool shot where I'm like, oh, what is happening down there?
I think it's just supposed to show that chaos is everywhere right now. Like people are just doing anything they can.
Yeah. In Jerusalem, Jerry meets Mossad chief Jurgen Warmbrunn.
Jurgen?
I feel like some people write these names just to like challenge me.
Yeah, specifically you.
Franchise
Just not
killer.
well-traveled, really.
How can we trap him?
We learned that word from Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. That's Jurgen.
Jurgen Warmbrunn, who explains
Warm
that
brunch?
months earlier, the Mossad had intercepted an Indian military message claiming that Indian troops were fighting the Rakshasa, or zombies. Israel had thereupon quarantined Jerusalem, erecting huge walls around it. Just as Jurgen shows Jerry that Israel is allowing survivors to take refuge in the city, loud celebratory singing from refugees prompts zombies to scale the walls and attack. Jurgen orders some Israeli soldiers to escort Jerry back to his plane. On the way, Jerry notices zombies ignoring an old man and an emaciated boy. Soon after, one of Jerry's escorts, a soldier who identifies herself only as Sagen, is bitten in the hand, which Jerry quickly amputates to stop her from turning. Jerry and Sagen escape on a commercial airliner as Jerusalem is overrun. Alright, so at this point in the movie, I've determined that anywhere Brad Pitt travels, that place is next to go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yep,
that was
yep,
a
yep.
little coincidental.
It feels like
You should
anywhere
warn
he
people
goes,
ahead of
anywhere
time.
he goes, just crap just happens.
Yep.
Like it just follows him, like he's the Reaper.
Yeah,
But
it's the bad luck.
He's what is it? Of the four horsemen, he's like plague or
yeah,
whatever.
but you had some interesting things to say about Jurgen.
Oh, I guess. I mean, I was going to
Jürgen
say,
Mengensen.
I don't think it was actually in the
He was
description you had
number
there.
one.
I was
The
going to,
concept of the 10th man.
yeah. Sorry, I was going to try to jump off of Irina's thing there, but yeah, I love the idea of the 10th man, or at least the way they described it. I don't know how effective that actually would be in practice, but I love the concept of it, where you have, okay, all these people came to the same conclusion, just as a sort of exercise in, making sure that we are seeing all perspectives. You have to be that 10th person who goes against everybody else. And the way they described it, it was really cool.
Yeah, Jurgen ends up being, I guess, the quote-unquote 10th man in this
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
I
Where
like
he's like,
that guy.
let's assume that this zombie apocalypse is real, and let's build a wall. Or
I think they were already building it, but they're just like, let's really fortify it now.
Let's really build the wall, though.
It was interesting that they had gotten to the point where I guess Israel had relinquished or abandoned Palestinian occupied territory, and they're letting Palestinians in the wall as well, and they're all kind of having a, I guess, tolerance of each other, for the time being.
Right. Yeah, it was showing a bunch of different kind of religious views. They got a little too happy with their religion. And
Word to the
maybe
wise.
a little
Well,
too
the
loud.
loud
Practice
singing.
quietly.
it was so coincidental that just happened to be what, like, oh, now the zombies
Now
are
they're
going
too
to
loud.
anthill over the wall.
Well, they finally
Like-
gave the girl the megaphone, so they
It
actually
wasn't a
could do it.
megaphone, it was just a microphone.
Whatever it
Yeah,
was.
it was just like. So this is probably the biggest sequence in this movie, and I think it, apart from how illogically it comes about, I think it's very impressive and enjoyable.
Right.
I love seeing the zombies kind of create a tower to then overcome the wall, and then just throw themselves over the other edge and
Yeah.
overcome Israel.
Just an absolute
was-
teeming mass.
I always think it's interesting in a disaster film how they always need a significant feat of architecture put in the scenes. Like, they constantly threw in the Dome of the Rock in this Israeli instance. Like, it's always that there, the mosque. That's the famous mosque up there. So it's, I don't know, it's like you always see either the Eiffel Tower, it's Big Ben, it's the White House.
Hey, this is momentous because
I think
look,
it helps provide
Landmark.
context for viewers that are less in tune with geography, I
Right.
guess.
They're like, this is
Where are we?
Israel.
Well, it brings
I know
about
that.
the scale. It's called World War Z, and it really
Yeah,
gives
trying
that
to make it global.
total world involvement.
it could have stood to have been spanned out between a couple of movies. No, I'm not saying. Okay, as this movie goes,
There should probably
think-
be 5 more.
I think the main issue is that it's really fast paced, and
Yeah.
and while that it's kind of a double edged sword because you like the fast pace of something, it keeps you hooked, but at the same time, as far as the disease is concerned, it doesn't really show. Oh, how did this get here? Really,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of information you're not privy to,
Yeah.
but
It's like taking a real life situation if zombies were a real thing and just hyper accelerating it, you know, so that you can see the process within a short period of time.
yeah.
I also think this is where the CGI gets a little bit dodgy at times. There's
just a tad.
and Noah and I noticed this. It's more when the film focuses on a single zombie versus the horde that we normally see. When it focuses on one, you can tell that not a lot of work was put into that particular model. But when you show the actual, horde mentality and all of them piling up on each other, it
Right.
looks a lot better. But yeah, just noticed a little bit of CGI there. Overall, though, I think this sequence is impressive, and I like how it culminates in this kind of arm chop off of what's her name,
Segan.
Segan. Yeah,
Israeli woman.
yeah, that was a pretty cool sequence where
It really was.
again Brad Pitt or Jerry.
Yeah.
What do you know about
Jerry.
zombies, Jerry?
Yeah, he
Jerry.
shows he's thinking on his feet.
Well, I think that was actually in the kind of intro Max Brooks book, Zombie Survival Guide, where you can try to attempt to sever a limb that's been the first contact, and I think you have like a 10% success rate.
Interesting.
Right.
So she was in the lucky 10%.
That does thinking about it, he's supposed to be a super observant guy, and he's really quick thinking. Why
Yeah.
did he leave his phone on? What of all the things to
He also
miss?
didn't put it in airplane mode where he's on the airplane.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeez.
I think
dare
also
you,
he
Jerry.
called her. There was no reception. I bet he was probably like, okay, there's no reception out here. I'm not getting contact. So
Even still, you
Maybe.
play to
I
be
know,
careful.
I know.
Either
of all the
way,
things he's careful of.
dumb things happen.
It's true.
right.
It's true. but
shenanigans ensue.
Whatever.
They escape on the jetliner, and all seems well. Let's move on.
But the movie's not over, so
Yeah.
all is not well.
Jerry contacts Theory, and the airliner is diverted to a World Health Organization facility outside Cardiff, Wales. When a stowaway zombie attacks on approach to Cardiff Airport, Jerry uses a grenade to blow the infected out of the aircraft, which also causes the plane to crash. Jerry is injured, but both he and Seguin survive. They proceed to the WHO facility, where Jerry loses consciousness.
Who? You stole my joke. You
Sorry.
thief.
He awakens 3 days later and explains to the remaining WHO staff his theory. Based on the people he has seen, the zombie ignore. The infected do not bite the seriously injured or terminally ill, since they would be unsuitable hosts for viral reproduction. He suggests that they test this by deliberately infecting somebody with a pathogen from the facility, but the pathogens are stored in a wing already overrun by zombies. Jerry, Seguin, and the lead WHO doctor go to get a pathogen. As they fight their way through, they are separated. Jerry continues to the pathogen vault, while Seguin and the doctor return to the main building. A zombie blocks the door to the vault, prompting Jerry to inject himself with an unknown pathogen and open the vault, thereby testing his theory. The zombie ignores him, as do those he encounters while returning to the main building.
That covered a lot of ground.
It sure
Yeah.
did.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, we got from Israel to Wales, okay?
Yeah. Well, first of all, those pilots are some rock stars. I
felt so bad for them because they were
I
just
know.
like, they're the
Well,
heroes.
Cardiff is the closest place from Jerusalem they can land that has a WHO
Dude,
office.
I don't know. I didn't look at a map.
Well, that was the one. I think that was the one that had all the viruses.
It
in
wasn't the closest place. I think it had something to do with the call that he gave them.
Well, that was the one that had all the different viruses they needed, I think.
Yeah.
By the way, let me say this. I am deathly afraid of flying. This is my ultimate nightmare. Being on a plane and then having a zombie outbreak on that
my
plane.
God.
Or next
be
to someone
known,
with
Reese.
a bloody stump of an arm just field dressing, like that guy was literally sitting there right next to her. Like, what's
By the way, in this situation, I was the guy next to them just trying to ignore the situation
Everything's
and
fine.
escape into my own
Everything's
Very
imagination.
British.
It was just a bathroom
fine.
zombie, like joining the Mile High Transformation Club.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. AJ, it's interesting that you had mentioned Train to Busan earlier, but this scene specifically when the zombie outbreak starts on the flight reminded me exactly of that film
Yeah.
when they
Yeah.
were trying to keep quiet, create
Stack
a
up the luggage.
barricade, yes, between the different carts. It was just eerily very, very similar. And I think Reese mentioned that Train to Busan came out after this.
Yeah.
So
It also
I
kind of
think
that's a
harkens to
cool
like Flight
concept.
193, like just
Yeah.
people kind of collaborating to take down the threat or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, very well executed sequence, though I do not think this situation would be survivable, but
Do you think-
I'd say it's 99% not survivable, actually.
What do you think of
considering what happened.
You-
epiphany montage of him realizing that the zombies are avoiding sick or injured people?
yeah.
Was that a
Well, you'd
natural
actually-
was that a natural conclusion immediately?
Wait,
Okay.
Are you skipping ahead to the facility?
So-
No, this happened
well-
on the plane.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
it also
As, he,
kind
as
of
he's
happened when he
bandaging
was in
Segan,
Israel.
he like has this epiphany, and then it like flashes back to the past times where they mentioned like someone was just left alone by the zombies.
He's remembering that old guy who's like, "Oh, where am I?" And
The
then
homeless
the
guy.
little kid that has his head shaved, obviously trying to combat cancer. So yeah, I think it's believable that a character like his would be incredibly observant. I don't think it's believable that he would see all those situations himself.
Okay, so
Well, it was sparked
real
by
quick,
Segan saying,
I have-
"I'm just a liability."
Yeah.
I have one comment on that. The mentality of like, how can this one person notice all this stuff or do all this stuff? And my point to counteract that is this is a story. They're focusing on the one character that does notice
Right.
on purpose. Like there are so many other people that don't, but there's always one person, even in real life, that does that sort of thing.
Yeah.
They
That
notice
guy
that they
is-
do this awesome stuff.
That guy is Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry.
But,
You're an average.
Run-of-the-mill
Family
Hollywood
Guy.
man.
But yeah, it's
I can't afford puppies.
So,
But so Segan
and-
says, "I'm a liability," and that sparks his mind to think, "Oh, the zombies don't want health like liabilities or functional
Yeah.
bodies that don't work or non-functional
Also,
bodies rather."
zombie snobs. What the heck? Like this is not good enough for my taste.
Wait, do you think that she saved them with her hand cut off, or is that not enough?
These racist zombies are leaving us alone.
Oh yes. They're like,
I
oh my
want
gosh, his blood is
fresh
tainted. Don't eat it.
Also, Peter Capaldi,
You can smell
real
it on
quick,
him.
the
Yeah.
Who
Oh,
Doctor, a month later became Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
yeah.
kinda cool.
What a throwaway role for both Peter Capaldi and Ruth Negga at the end of this movie. They barely get speaking time in this movie, and they're huge stars from the UK.
Well, what's his name? The guy who plays the dude in Lost. Michael Fox?
Michael
Yeah, he was
Fox,
like
Matthew Fox.
helicopter
Matthew.
pilot.
not
yeah.
in it at all. I heard he was cut. This
Yeah.
movie had a lot of reshoots, and I heard a lot of his screen time was cut.
I
So
wonder why.
Oh no.
I think his character was actually involved with. He was supposed to have some sort of affair with Karen in the original cut of this movie.
Who's Karen?
His
It's,
wife.
I don't
Jerry's
like
wife.
that.
Yeah, they cut that out. Obviously,
Good.
like it wasn't what they.
They're like, that's not the purpose of this
Just
film.
Yeah.
too
We
much
We need
side
no
story.
NTR.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
like that would
That
not
was a
even
I gotta
smart
say,
choice.
Smart
Yeah,
choice.
yeah.
They shouldn't have ever had it in the original script. But like, why even that has
ruins
no.
it.
Wait, was that in the
Yeah.
original book? Did his
No,
wife
it wasn't.
have
I
something?
don't think it was in the book. It was just
No, so the original
book
book is
isn't
actually
what
an
you think.
anthology of accounts. Like he's interviewing people who lived through this and their different perspectives of it. It's not a single overarching like plot line.
Yeah.
Well, that's dumb. There's no point to even including that. And what you have Brad Pitt as the main character.
drama.
Why would you downgrade to
Obviously
Michael
didn't.
Fox.
Obviously didn't do it.
Yeah, it's like going from yet again Target to Walmart. I mean, not
Jack.
like I as much as I like Matthew Fox and he's a perfectly attractive man. But
Well, if you think Target's gonna die and you don't see Target ever again, Walmart starts looking pretty good.
It's definitely the hair, though. Like
Make
Sawyer
it-
had long
Yeah,
hair,
the
Jack
hair.
had short hair.
Exactly.
Jerry has
I
long
think-
hair.
I think you're on to
We
something.
got to go
AJ.
back.
So we get our. I actually like how intimate this final sequence is, where this whole movie has been kind of a big budget blockbuster
Yeah.
of huge. I don't know. The proportions have been large, and we dial it down to this more intimate horror kind of tension-filled situation where Brad Pitt is navigating his way through the WHO facility, trying to get to the diseases and find a cure, I guess, or at least inject himself with some disease so that the zombies don't notice him, or at least don't go for him.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I liked this sequence,
Yeah.
and this was, I learned this was a last minute, or not last minute, but it was a rewrite of the original story, which was going to be some big battle between humans and zombies in Russia, like a battle even larger than the one in
Lord of the Rings.
Israel.
Oh.
No,
Yeah.
it was supposed to
You
be like
can't
this.
do that.
It was supposed to be this culminating, like, huge blockbuster finale in this movie. And actually, I do kind of want to ask you guys, would y'all have preferred a even larger scale action sequence?
No.
Well, no, but if it had been more movies, I would have liked to have seen it somewhere.
Like in the seventh movie, as you would have proposed?
I was thinking,
Like Game of Thrones in the last
I
season.
do
I
feel
was thinking 9, but
9.
I do feel that would be more befitting of the title of World War Z. Whereas this movie, the plot, I wouldn't really title it a world war. I don't really see warfare involved.
Yeah, it's
in
more
it.
like World Skirmish Z.
Or struggles, like struggles to survive.
World Struggle Z.
They're all in a war against
Slut.
the Z man.
slight World War Z.
Yeah, and that's something that's definitely missing from like the original book. You definitely have, descriptions of just warfare and like shell shock and PTSD and stuff after like,
gosh.
seeing zombies. You're fighting zombies with tanks, and the tanks are ineffective, and zombies are coming at you with their lungs literally like hanging out of them, and it's just like I don't feel that from this movie. And
Yeah, it's also, I honestly think this movie's crippled by its PG-13 rating as well. I feel like it
and
needed
I
to be...
saw an interview that the director did about that, and he was really content with it. But you're right. I feel like maybe this appeals to him because it doesn't have all the gore, but I wanted something a bit more gritty.
Yeah,
There is I watched the director's cut, which does have a little more violence. The intensity is ramped up a little bit, but I feel like it just needed to be completely unbridled. I mean, I don't think a zombie movie like this works unless it is completely unrestrained.
Especially
From
one
any-
called World War Z.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
I ain't gonna take that slight.
It's not a slight; it's your opinion.
So I think my point is regarding both this movie and 28 Weeks Later is this could have been a little more visceral. That one could have been a little less visceral. I don't think there should be no gore at all. I'm just saying there doesn't need to be an abundance of it. I think you can convey a lot of a visceral. I keep using that word, but
Visceral.
It's a good
visceral.
word.
So this visceralness, you can't really contain it very well.
I think what you are delineating between is that there's a sort of hyper focus on the gore that you don't like. Where It
Yeah.
almost feels like the person creating it is enjoying it a little too much. As opposed to it being just necessary to the plot.
Yeah, exactly. That's
There's
exactly
a movie
what
that
I mean.
balances it perfectly, and it's called Mad Max Fury Road.
Yes,
This is a
yeah.
movie where it is definitely bloody at times, but it's also not gratuitously violent.
It actually looks realistic as far as the amount of blood that they do show as well.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
So yeah,
seemed to at least.
I think this movie could have used a little more of that. but that's fine. It's trying to appeal to a wide audience, and judging by its box office numbers, it succeeded.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nevertheless, it took a different approach, and they did a good job with what they ended up doing with, at the end where they're sneaking through the hallways. I felt like it did a good job at building actual, real, organic suspense with the sneaking, and it alternates between silence and the slow strings in the background, which is a credit to the score.
Yeah,
it just keeps the audience off tempo, especially coming from.
Good. And it's the first moment of true, like, oh, this is actually a horror movie.
Yeah.
Not an action kind of action-based blockbuster. So yeah, they find the cure, or not, no, they don't find the cure, but
Did they
find
perform for them?
They find out for sure that the zombies are not attracted to people that are inflicted by some sort of disease.
Yeah.
So I found that pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I like that revelation there. It's a really cool sequence to see Brad Pitt just walking back towards, the group as zombies just pass him on either side, not caring about him at all.
I thought that was a cool scene.
He was almost invisible, basically.
Camouflaged, if you will.
Yeah.
And I wonder how they can tell. Do they just smell something different? Or
I don't know. It's probably just some animalistic
This
kind
man's weak.
instinct?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's almost as if they are the virus itself. To me, that's what it felt like.
They're representing the virus.
And the virus can feel the virus that's inside
Yeah,
the other.
it only makes sense if you go with that hive mind kind of theory.
Yeah.
Because, otherwise a zombie's like bloodthirsty and violent and just hungers to like maim, kill, destroy.
Right.
And they're guided by exclusively spreading the virus.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, let's bring the story home here, guys.
All right.
Jerry and his family are reunited in a safe zone at Freeport, Nova Scotia. A vaccine derived from deadly pathogens is developed and issued to survivors battling the infected, acting as a kind of camouflage. The vaccine also helps survivors to reach quarantine zones. Human offensives begin against the zombies and hope is restored. So, not too much to comment on from this other than what we've said, but yeah, overall a, positive ending to a zombie film.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they even said at the end of it, it's not all just butterflies and rainbows.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says the war isn't over, which, to be honest, from a realistic approach, they just created a new enemy, a new cocktail virus or disease pandemic that you've got humanity already on the ropes fighting zombies. And now, look at today in the real world, how ill-equipped we are, hospitals and all that stuff to fight this. And then imagine being in a world war, just struggling for survival. Now you have to fight a new virus that's attacking humanity.
Right.
That's the one thing that confused me when they're like, we have a, was it the antivirus or what? I don't even know what you'd call it.
Yeah, they called it a vaccine, but
not
it's basically,
a vaccine, right?
They mixed meningitis, smallpox, and the regular flu, H1N1.
Which is what confused me because it's like, yeah, here it is. This will help you, but really you're just going to be sick and dying.
No, they probably provided a cure as well.
They did, but it's still, it doesn't...
Treatment.
The thing is, it's not saving you from the zombies, it's prolonging it. Like, you...
What do you mean?
Because you have to
still have to...
Yeah,
your military forces are going to be suffering for these symptoms, if not bedridden and stuff, but they still have to eradicate the zombies that are still existent. They might ignore you, so you're shooting fish in a barrel, so to speak, but you have to be able to get up and pick up your rifle.
The way I saw it was that they were giving it to people that were stuck in a situation where they had to fend off the zombies and they couldn't really last. So... And they showed a little later that people were still actually fighting the zombies as well. So I think they probably just provided it to people that needed it, along with the cure, until they could get to a safe spot.
It's still not a vaccine. Like, a vaccine saves... It literally keeps you from being infected. It does not do that.
But when you think about a vaccine, it's using cells from the actual virus or whatever problem it is and putting it back into your system. So you're kind of contaminating yourself so you can build an immunity to the actual sickness. And so that's what we do with the flu vaccines every time. It's not like, I just found some magical substance that keeps you from getting the flu. It's using bits of that DNA or whatever to prevent it from affecting you as seriously as it would otherwise.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think even they call it a real vaccine either.
They do. I will
Yeah,
say
they use the word vaccine.
Yeah.
Really? I didn't remember it in the movie.
Yeah, I do specifically because I was like, is it?
Well,
Is it though?
okay, but also then in that case, you can defend what they say by they're in the moment, and it essentially, for all intents and purposes, is a vaccine.
It's
So
just going
it's-
to kill you slower.
Well, no, because you're not infecting
they're
them with the
giving
same
things
thing.
that are treatable.
Yeah, they're
But then once you
treatable
treat
diseases.
it, then you are inherently capable of being infected by a
Yes,
zombie.
but now you're in a zone where you're not going to be infected by zombies.
Not necessarily.
I think it's,
I mean,
it's more of a thing
more
where
likely.
because it's so fast acting, this zombie virus, it's a temporary fix where like it will just buy us some time to try and figure this out.
I mean, we are really just arguing semantics because
well,
honestly,
The point
it
is to
does
get
help
to a
them.
safe spot.
Yeah, I
you
get
know?
that. It's semantics because whatever you call it, it is helping. It's just
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a vaccine, but it doesn't really matter.
It's like basically this movie is finding the first piece of the puzzle, and then there's still further things to figure out.
Also, I thought that this was a really good way for them to go as far as cures go, because you're always looking at zombie movies and you're thinking, how are they going to freaking cure that? Like, you know?
We might just
Like,
lay down and
this dude's
die.
got his jaw hanging out. What are you going to do with that guy once you give him a cure? He's going to be like, why the hell did you do this to me? Just let me die. Like,
Why is my leg
kill me.
That's basically
what the
how
heck?
you
I have a hole
exist
in my
now,
chest.
Kevin.
All right.
Zombie movies sure like using Pepsi as a sponsor. Or Pepsi
Oh, I
as
was thinking that. So while we were watching it, he cracks open a drink, and then all the Pepsi falls out of the machine when he hits it. But
And literally
then
in the vending
zombies
machine,
leave,
all
and
the Pepsi cans are turned logo forward.
yes.
I would have loved
And then
to
I
have seen
said,
like,
you
Pepsi.
just open a Pepsi and the zombies come running.
We're going to take a quick break. That's the end of our story. We're going to come back and talk about this movie, give our brief reviews, and talk about this franchise, I guess?
Yeah.
All right.
One off.
Welcome back.
Hello.
We all ready to review World War Z?
Amen,
guess.
sister.
All right. You, actually, this
You.
time, sorry, I had to think for a second.
You.
This time we put our scores in. We got them in a little bowl.
box.
Random, yeah, I guess a box. David, why don't you pull the
First
score and see
one
what you
is Irina with a 7.5.
All right.
Yeah. So as far as zombie movies
Wow.
go, this is very enjoyable. I like it's kind of a fresh take on what a zombie apocalypse would look like. I enjoy seeing a more global perspective. I like all the scene changes, being able to see different locations and how things are being handled. That being said, I think everything was squashed a little bit. I don't know if this was the best way to showcase World War Z.
It
based
needed to
on-
be 30 minutes longer.
Yeah,
Like, it
it's-
needed some
yeah.
padding.
Or maybe
needed-
like two other movies or
it
something
needed just
like
a
that.
little
Or five
a little
other movies.
more. I actually think this would be really successful as a TV show. I feel like I say that for almost
Yeah.
everything. But
Anything
it's
that
true.
has like a
It's
long
true.
in-depth process.
I feel like anytime I watch a movie where there's a really interesting plot, I just wish that they had a better way to kind of dive into it. So, but given what they had, they did a really good job. So I wanted to give a 7.5 because although it's not my favorite zombie movie ever, I think it's very well encapsulated in a film. A lot of it gives me a War of the Worlds vibe where it deviates from the book, but I think the director had in mind that obviously we can't do the book justice with a film.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of take inspiration from it and create our own work. So
Yeah.
that's my vote
It's no Shaun of the Dead.
or rating or whatever
Yeah.
you would call it.
There ain't much that he is.
All right,
All
David,
right,
pull the
moving
next
on.
score.
Next score is David with an 8.
David?
This
3.5 points higher than 28 weeks later.
of the Dragon Emperor.
I almost wish I could give it more.
Man.
Yeah.
Why
It
don't
is-
you?
Because it doesn't deserve more than an 8. It is
Okay. Why?
because it has its flaws. There are a lot of flaws in this movie as far as plot in excuse me, sorry, there's something in my
But was it really that close to Tomb of the Dragon Emperor?
You just had to bring it in there, didn't you?
Okay,
You
so,
just
like-
did it.
Every time.
Here's
Every
my
time.
question. Honestly, how did this score higher than Tomb of the Dragon Emperor for you?
Because it was substantially better. Is it that hard?
Wait, 1 point is substantially better?
I don't know. It's like 5 points better, Noah.
All right, let him review the movie.
Wait, so
let
you
him
give-
let him
Wait,
review
you
the
give this
movie.
a 12?
No.
Let him review the movie.
This movie is an 8. It is a very good movie. It is well conveyed. And the issues that they did have in this movie, they did a very good job of transitioning through them. I feel like if there are issues, you can also write them off. Whereas in other movies like 28 Weeks Later, you can't. It just doesn't make sense. Literally does not make sense. This one you can go, okay, it's kind of weird. I don't think that would work that way, but maybe there is a way it could work. I just can't think of it.
No,
And you can go through it.
I'm going to clarify your comments there. What you're saying, 28 weeks later tries to be more realistic. It's portraying itself as a more realistic zombie movie.
They're trying. Yeah.
Whereas World War Z is not as much. But
I would disagree.
28 weeks later, it does some dumb things that should not be in a more realistic movie.
It doesn't pick a lane.
I would say World War Z is not as realistic, and it
I
lives
disagree.
in that environment more comfortably.
I
Okay,
think that
go
it
ahead.
is more realistic, and they do a good job of staying in its lane. They don't try to drive a freaking helicopter into zombies and chop them all up. Okay,
I liked that
Swerve.
scene.
it was funny, and that to this point, I think they did a good job of keeping this realistic and what would combat an actual zombie apocalypse. Now the zombies themselves are probably the least, I guess, realistic part, but it was definitely it made sense the way they portrayed it. Okay.
All right.
I think I could understand. I think they attempted to make something that was, okay, what if the zombie apocalypse actually happened? What would be the process? But they decided to try and do something a little realistic, and instead they're like, but what if we had a character that was like Jack Bauer?
Just doesn't die.
One-man army, basically.
Let's move on to the next score, shall we?
Yeah, let's move on.
AJ with a 7.5.
All right.
Gosh, what the heck?
No, high score.
Hey! We
No,
are the
Yeah,
same.
I'm just surprised
This
that
was an
everyone rated
enjoyable
it so
movie
high.
overall. I enjoyed it unexpectedly, kind of like I said in my intro, and similar to Irina, I didn't really expect a lot from this. I also hadn't known the source material coming into it beforehand. There's some issues I take just kind of from a scientific approach, but I mean that's going to happen with any zombie movie, really.
Yeah.
Especially the ending with the whole vaccine stuff. I still think that's kind of a fuzzy gray area ending, and that was changed, and that was probably what other people would take issue with the movie. That changed there too, but it surprised me as far as from a enjoyability and aesthetically, you do feel the world scale, and I like that from a zombie movie, and I don't really know that I get that from most other movies I've seen. It's all usually kind of a local sense, but kind of seeing the worldwide scale of everything is really neat. What I feel like was the ball and chain for this movie that brought it down was the PG-13 rating, where I wanted to see some darkness to the, everything here that's kind of a little whitewashed and candy coated a little
A
bit.
little too much of a happy ending.
Yeah, and especially now starting to delve into at least the audiobook form of the novel, which is amazing, by the way. It's got an ensemble cast.
Yeah, I've been listening to it.
Especially talking about the front lines, the soldiers experience PTSD, and just kind of facing that as a boots on the ground perspective. I wish that they really lived up to the name World War Z,
Right.
and kind of saw that as just a real struggle instead of a one-man journey to save the world kind of thing. So it's enjoyable, especially as zombie movies go, and it does a good job of towing the line of suspension of disbelief for me, which is kind of hard for me personally. So it checked that box, and that's good. It just it could have been more if it was allowed to be from the rating side of things.
Yeah. All right, next.
Moving on. There's 2 people left. Who's it gonna be? Oh, it's gonna be Reese with a 7.0.
Yeah. 7. I stand by that score.
You're an idiot.
7's good.
Reese, no, we talked about this beforehand. You're getting a swift kick to the balls, my friend. After giving
very
this,
harsh.
after giving this a full point lower than 28 weeks later. Are you serious right
28
now?
weeks later is a better movie.
All right, we're having a legitimate conversation after this because that is not true in any sense.
This
All
movie,
right, let him speak.
I'm just amazed at you, honestly, or some of you people.
You amaze me, David.
You're all dumb.
I think this movie has more dumb moments in it than 28 Weeks Later did.
You have to
No,
be kidding.
okay,
Yeah.
actually, I entirely disagree.
Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Let me explain myself in my own
You're
review.
just dumb.
It is just preposterous to me that Brad Pitt, is goes to all these different locations and just the moment he arrives there, just
And not freaking Don. He goes to every single location. Somehow he's got like this brain echolocation type thing where he can connect to his
Do you
children.
want to review my movie for me?
Okay, go ahead.
It's just he goes to all these locations, and that just happens to be the time when just hits the fan. Like it's just so.
It is okay. It can happen.
It
is possible.
The moment where he hears that Israel has figured it out and they're beating this thing, and then he goes there, and not 5 minutes later, some woman is like shouting some song or singing some song, and then that's when the zombies decide to.
Coincidental? Yes. Improbable?
There are
no.
so many coincidences. in
Yes,
this
but guess
movie.
what's improbable? 28 weeks later.
It's ridiculous that I think what they did with this movie was they took a lot of the, anthology type stories from the World War Z book and basically made Jerry a part of a few of them. Like they incorporated those stories into his timeline.
Yeah.
And it's too many stories for one man to experience. It just seems too like, I don't know.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can agree to an extent, but if you had to pick one movie over another, you're picking 28 Weeks Later over this one?
Yeah, I am. Because 28 Weeks Later isn't afraid to spill a little blood and have a little fun. Okay?
No,
I like the blood.
it's I would say it totally isn't afraid. It thinks that with the shock value,
We can sell
they
this
will
movie.
sell it.
And they did.
They
to
think
Reese.
that that's going to be
And I think-
what gets them money.
28 Weeks Later does not pull its punches. It scared me more than this movie did. Y'all are attacking me, but I gave
Yes,
this
we
movie
are.
I gave this movie a good score. 7 out of
Yeah.
10. And I don't want to feel like I'm coming off negative on this
28
movie
Weeks
because
Later is
No,
your two
Reese,
of the
I'm
Dragon
actually
Emperor.
completely on your side
Yeah,
with
yeah.
this.
cool. I'm actually on this movie's side. I enjoy it. I think it's a good kind of like, this is almost the best you get out of a blockbuster zombie movie. Like it delivers on that front, and I love how it reins it back towards the end and makes it more intimate. And I love when it goes full on and gives us a full scale, zombie action sequence. I think it does all those things well. I just think some of the plot points are, a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
The plot makes
and
more
This is a
sense
better
in this
made
than
movie.
the other one.
I just
Yeah.
think
Well-
it's funny that Jerry is just like, hey, I
Reese,
feel like the
this
next
has-
big
this
zombie.
has more of a cohesive plot than the other one does. The other one just follows these two little children as they are like, oh, I don't know,
They
what
have
am I
plot
doing? I
armor.
guess I have.
my
I guess my
God.
blood is the cure.
For one,
but
I'm
maybe
not.
it's
they
not.
don't
I'm
know.
the carrier.
I'm not comparing this
No,
movie
Reese,
to that
I'll
one.
come to your rescue here. I'm on your side, and I agree with what
Yeah.
you've said. And I did have a full list of all the dumb moments that I didn't really
Yeah.
go into deeply that I did on 28 Weeks Later. So that's
Yeah.
maybe not the best representation. I feel like this movie, though, had the budget to throw money at the problem to gloss over those dumb moments
Yeah.
better than
I think
And
28
it's
Weeks
fun.
Later
over.
did.
And that's why it gets a passing grade for me because I liked it.
Yeah.
But
I will
think about
say-
this sequence for a second. The airplane sequence. When
Yes,
there,
it's kinda
there's
ridiculous, but
there's
they
a
made it
zombie.
work.
There's a zombie just in the lavatory. Okay, and that explodes into this crazy situation out on the plane, and then you know what? The best solution for this, I am going to throw this grenade. And
It was the best solution.
Okay, yes, but then, conveniently, Jerry and Seguin survive, and we're just a walking distance from the World Health Organization. That's nice.
Well, they were about to land. Yes, everything's coincidental. But that's the only problem.
right.
It's coincidental. It's not improbable.
Well, also, you have
Yes, it
to
is.
you have to point
Shut up,
out
AJ.
you have to point out the tone of the movie though, because this one is obviously Wow, this movie, World War Z, is obviously set in a universe where this kind of stuff is kind of the norm, but the other one's supposed to be more steeped in reality, and it is. And when you steep yourself in reality, you have to expect that
Hang
you're going
on.
to be criticized in a more realistic
How
manner.
are either of these steeped in reality?
No. Okay. The point is in how they convey the mood and how they convey the situations.
Yeah, and I
agree with
agree
that.
with you there. That's why I still like this movie. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did not give
All right.
it a
No,
negative.
I-
Look,
I'm
it's
gonna-
not
I'm gonna
the
tell you,
score. It's the
it's-
comparison.
yeah, that's-
that is
that's-
the problem.
that's what I agree with
and
you
I'm
on.
going to go ahead
Yeah.
and tee you up, Noah, by saying I think Noah has the most accurate scores out of everybody between these two movies.
Oh,
Mainly,
shut
I'm
up.
glad you feel
mainly
that way,
because
David.
I leaned into the more negative and to the more positive on
So
both
his
these.
his are only accurate because they more agree with yours.
David's
They're
are only
better.
designed to
They're better.
counterbalance other reviews. Like, it's not
You
his actual
gotta.
feeling.
Oh, it's my feelings. I just
David
know.
is a hipster.
I know it's cool. Leave me alone. I like IPAs. Noah's score for this one is a 7.
Yours
Take it
is the
away,
same
Noah.
as mine.
Yeah,
Not the score,
point-
Reese.
the point is-
it's the comparison.
Yeah, that's and that's the point he just made. I have the same score as you, so I agree with all of what you said about this movie itself, but I don't agree with its comparison to the other movie.
Okay.
I think this movie is a 7. It's not. I deem 8 as a great movie. I deem 7 as, oh, this was a good movie. This was really entertaining, whether it has flaws or not. And this movie, while it has a lot of flaws, it keeps with its tone. It's like David said, it's on the one track that it chose. It keeps with its theme, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
The other movie, I just thought, okay, that's a stupid thing that happened. Oh, I don't like all this blood. All right, this is uncomfortable to watch, but I'm watching it. That one scene was good, but the rest of it doesn't quite make sense.
Okay.
You know?
Well, you can
It's just-
you can have that
Yeah.
opinion. I will not combat it like people attacked me for
I
mine.
will punt. I'm gonna, yeah. Words.
You know what, Reese? You convinced me.
Aw, I'm glad.
Actually, I might even change my score.
No, AJ, no.
You can't do this.
But I'm looking at how I reviewed 28 Weeks Later, and I was pretty harsh on it for things that I kind of gave a pass to World War Z.
Yeah.
Well, but the like I
made
said
it work.
before, whether you lend credence to what I say, it's all in how they convey the tone of the movie. They conveyed the tone of the movie as less serious in this, therefore you don't have to be as critical about its other aspects.
This movie was cohesive.
And
Hang on.
yeah, it fit with the rest of the movie. Like Pirates of the Caribbean 1, there's so many ridiculous scenarios, but I still give that movie a 9. Like, I love that movie.
you're right. I
Like-
agree with you.
No, I know.
I'm just-
I'm debating the point of with AJ right now.
Let's
My
get to
bad.
let's get to the franchise portion of this podcast.
Sure.
Now that we've done our ratings, so critics on this movie, Rotten Tomatoes, it had a 66% from critics with an audience score of 72%. The IMDb score was 7.0, which is a audience-based score. Metacritic, it had a 63, and audiences on Metacritic gave it a 6.8.
So that's higher than 28 weeks
No,
later.
it,
As far as the audience score is
28 weeks later was higher.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
it was
but only
almost
slightly.
identical.
Only
Oh.
slightly.
Nearly identical.
I thought the other one was 67.
28 weeks later, slightly higher on all counts.
Gotcha.
I think
Well,
Reese's score is influenced by looking at all these scores first.
No, I just
If you knew Reese at all, you would know that isn't true.
Oh, okay, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
all right, box office. This movie cost $190 million.
That's a steep number,
Dang.
actually.
Oh, gosh.
It's the biggest budget zombie movie of all time.
All right.
I think I know what the problem was with this movie.
All right,
Brad Pitt.
worldwide box office. Anyone have any guesses?
So you said 190. I'm gonna say 280.
All right, Noah?
3-10.
Irina?
What?
Money? AJ?
Green.
Green?
I'll say 250.
250. All right. Y'all are in for a little bit of a surprise. This movie had a worldwide gross of $540 million.
Noah wins, I
It's
guess.
because of the Brad Pitt frontman.
Yeah. It is a box office success. Surpassed a lot of expectations. Everyone thought it was going to bomb, and it was actually a pretty sizable
Monumental hit.
Yeah, and at the time of this releasing, it was actually the highest grossing film of Brad Pitt's career.
What?
Whoa.
Yep.
That's that would be kind of a bummer, actually.
Yeah. So, why did this movie not get a sequel, guys? Or why has
Brad
it not
Pitt.
gotten a sequel
Dude,
yet?
I
Cost
actually-
too much money.
I have no idea.
I'm going to do a little Wikipedia read through real quick, if y'all don't mind.
Sure.
Okay.
We're going to talk about this the sequel prospects of this movie. In January 2012, director Marc Forster and Paramount said that they each view World War Z as a trilogy that would have grounded gunmetal realism of Matt Damon's Jason Bourne series, tethered to the unsettling end times vibe of AMC's The Walking Dead.
Okay.
Plans for future installments were shelved due to the film's production troubles. In June of 2013, after the successful opening of World War Z, Paramount announced that it was moving ahead with a sequel. In December 2013, it was reported that J.A. Bayona had been chosen to direct the film. In 2014, Stephen Knight was set to write the script. In May 2015, it was announced that the film would be released on June 9th, 2017. But in January 2016, Paramount announced that director Bayona left the project due to other commitments. And then, in August 2016, Variety reported that the film was not yet in production and that David Fincher had entered negotiations to be the director. And in April 2017, it was reported Fincher was close to a deal to sign on. On February 8th, 2017, Paramount announced that the sequel has still not started filming and would not be released until 2018 or possibly even 2019. And last paragraph here, sorry guys, just got to run down all of this. In June 2017, Fincher was confirmed by Paramount as the director of the sequel, with Brad Pitt returning to his role. Filming was slated to start in fall of 2018, though this changed as Fincher was working on his television series Mindhunter. In October 2018, producer Dee Gardner confirmed that the sequel would begin filming in June 2019. However, in February 2019,
What the
film...
heck?
I know, it's just such a back and forth. However, in February 2019, the film was canceled after several months of pre-production and staffing for principal photography in 5 countries. According to a source quoted by The Hollywood Reporter, the Chinese government's ban on films featuring zombies or ghosts is the single biggest reason that Paramount canceled the sequel.
What?
China ruined
So
it.
literally, China not wanting to watch or not wanting to feature ghosts or zombies in movies was the sole reason that this movie, the sequel, did not get the green light.
Also, I think we all know it was because Mr. Fincher over there probably was like, I need a $500,000 budget.
Okay, hang on though.
$500,000.
Million.
Dude. But I would kill to see a David Fincher
I
zombie.
know.
Seriously.
Imagine
Really
it.
cool.
Like,
Imagine the
budget,
suspense
though.
and the tension he
and
would be
David
able
Fincher
to
has a really
conjure
good
from
relationship with Brad Pitt too, so it would
Oh
have.
my gosh,
It just
it
seems
would-
like
Imagine
that.
Band of Brothers or The Pacific, but a zombie song.
Or Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
I'm so disappointed we don't already have one.
I know the movie was successful.
Maybe I would have got
Yeah,
my
all right,
thriller
this is a
zombie
7.
movie.
Yeah.
That would have actually exactly been that.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's a cultural thing as far as China goes.
It is. They
It's
don't-
like
they
that
don't-
It's an
they
insult to ancestors. And
Yeah,
Well,
they
didn't they
don't,
say that-
they
If it-
don't condone movies with ghosts or zombies. It's just a
Didn't
thing
they
that
say
they
Or
that
if
always
the
it's
have.
disease
because
was
in the
also
book-
supposedly spawned from China too?
What was it?
I don't
you
think
were
that's-
Well, in the
saying,
book,
Adrian?
the origin point is China.
Yeah.
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 And, we saw that what happened with the NBA this
Yeah.
year
Yeah.
and China's influence on all that stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So sorry about all that information.
This is
bomb
definitely
there,
the,
but it was
the most
kind of a funny
random
back and
sort
forth.
of why that we've heard yet.
I know because the
If
movie's
they-
successful
if it's-
and
Ugh.
Well
if
reviewed.
it's still in talks, I really want him to direct it.
I'd love it if they'd say-
to see that
Do it.
so-
Not
so
World
bad.
War Z as the next title and just do it anyways.
These are not zombies.
These are not-
They just act like them.
They're vampires. Take a page out of I Am Legend.
They're infected.
Speaking of which, this is one of the few films where they actually call them zombies.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have other names.
The
for
damn
them,
Zeeks.
The Zeeks.
But
yeah.
Oh yeah, they use
Yeah.
Zeeks like 50 times in that
Oh, yeah.
one scene.
Yeah.
But I think I enjoy that because almost every single zombie movie, everyone pretends that's not part of their culture.
Yeah.
They're like, zombies? What?
That doesn't make any sense.
So,
All right.
What's a zombie,
So,
guys?
is it too late to drop my score to a 7 officially?
No.
7?
Wait,
You want to drop
yes.
it to a 7? You can do it if you want.
Yeah, Reese, looking back over my notes on this movie, you basically
Yeah, I
Called it.
highlighted all
AJ's
the
just
things.
mad that we
All
got
right.
on Reese so much.
No.
I don't know. I'm kind of happy I got on Reese.
I am too.
I think this
I feel
Everyone's
right with
happy
the
that they
7.
get on me.
this and the 28 Days Later whole franchise are it's very difficult because they're all very close. They all have their different pitfalls, but at the same time, it's like they're zombie movies.
Yeah. Have fun with them.
It's fun.
It's all
Yeah.
it's all kind of tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
All right.
Usually.
So do you have the tally up of the scores, AJ? Or are you
Yeah, so we have an average of 7.3.
7.3 for World War Z? Passing.
And that puts it, I don't know if I mentioned last episode, the placement.
Well, if you mention
The
it
28
now, he
weeks
can
later
connect
is
it
in
together.
9th place.
Okay.
And, excuse me, that might change when I factor in this new movie.
It'll probably be 10th, more than likely.
Yeah, so 10th place, World War Z is 7th place, behind Narnia Prince Caspian,
All right.
and before 28 Days Later.
Interesting.
Okay.
All right. Oh,
All right.
decent placement. All right, guys. That wraps up our World War Z episode. Next week, we will be covering The Never-Ending Story. So,
Hopefully this coronavirus is not a never-ending story.
wow. This will be our first movie that takes place in the 80s.
Whoa.
I'm
Was filmed in the
excited,
80s. Yeah. New ground for us. So,
Atreyu!
yeah.
Dude,
So,
I can't wait to talk about this one.
you can find our podcast on
I can wait.
most popular podcast streaming services: Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Podbean. What am I missing? Google.
Did you say Stitcher?
I said Stitcher.
Yeah, there's Google. Yeah.
Basically,
just all
just
those.
look for us and you'll
Look for us, find
it.
us, do it, figure it out.
Yeah, subscribe, like, do all that good stuff. Give us a good rating. We surely need it and appreciate it.
Shout
Wash
out to
your
all you
hands.
people
Yeah,
in
wash your
Czech
hands.
Republic listening to
I
us.
need it so bad.
All right, thanks,
Yeah, you should
guys.
check us out.
Bye.
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 Zeke's everywhere.
Zeeks.